Welcome. Thank you for joining us today and for your interest in applying to the new Creative Foundations Fund. I'm Owen Pettinger, a senior manager in the Capital team. I'm a white male with greying hair and a short beard. We're very pleased to announce this new Capital Fund for 25 to 26, and we'll be sharing more information on this in today's presentation. This information can also be found in our guidance for applicants, which we have published on the Arts Council England website. Before applying to the fund, we strongly encourage you to read the guidance in full. Information on how to contact our inquiries team for support is available at the end of this presentation. We're also joined for this recording today by British Sign Language interpreters Naomi and Claire, who you will see on the screen, and the slide deck and transcript from this presentation are also available on our website. Next slide, please. So the Creative Foundations Fund is an open access capital fund that supports creative and cultural organisations in England in revitalising, restoring, retrofitting or renewing cultural assets, including urgent work which prevents organisations from effectively delivering work for the public. Organisations must demonstrate that the investment in buildings and equipment is business critical to delivering creative or cultural activity, minimising the risk of asset failure and increasing the economic sustainability of the creative and cultural sectors. The fund can only support expenditure that will be capitalised on your balance sheet. Sorry, that should be support expenditure that will be capitalised on your balance sheet. The fund has two strands. Strand 1, grants of £100,000 up to and including £1 million with a total budget of £25 million. And Strand 2, grants above £1 million up to and including £10 million with a total budget of £60 million. The funding will be awarded for projects running from April 2026 to the 31st of March 2029 for both strands. The Creative Foundations Fund is a competitive fund and we anticipate high demand. Applicants should read both the guidance for applicants and the how to apply guide for the relevant strand before applying, both of which are available on our website. Next slide, please. So the aims of the fund are to increase the economic sustainability of cultural and creative organisations through improving existing cultural buildings and equipment, to decrease the risk and financial impact of abandoned or cancelled performances, exhibitions or events caused by equipment or infrastructure failure, and to grow audience engagement and access by underserved communities to high-quality creative work and cultural infrastructure. Next slide, please. The outcomes we expect to see from this investment are improved value for money through decreasing the amount of expenditure on maintenance and repair of cultural assets, reduced loss of high-quality cultural work from creative and cultural organisations as a result of asset failure or degradation. Cultural organisations develop more sustainable financial and business models, adapting to the changing environment and needs of the communities with whom they work, and also improved energy efficiency and environmental performance of cultural buildings and equipment. All applicants will be asked to use our 4 investment principles to shape their activity to achieve the aims of the Arts Council's strategy, Let's Create. As a reminder, our investment principles are ambition and quality, dynamism, environmental responsibility, and inclusivity and relevance. And you can find further information about these on our website in the strategy pages. Next slide, please. So the key dates you should be aware of in planning your application are the deadline for expression of interest, which is 12 noon on the 25th of July 2025. For those then invited to apply, the application form will be made available on the 26th of August, and the deadline to submit your application is 12 noon on 31st of October 2025. And then finally, decisions will be announced in March, April 2026. EOIs and applications need to be completed online through our online application portal, Grantium. If your application is eligible, it will be assessed against 3 assessment criteria: meeting the brief, management of activity, and financial viability. We will then go through a balancing panel with final decisions made by our executive board by March 2026. Next slide, please. Not-for-profit cultural organisations based in England must demonstrate that their primary aims are cultural, the activities they are applying for fall within our remit, they have presented or delivered cultural activity in the last 12 months. Cultural organisations can only submit one expression of interest to either Strand 1 or Strand 2 for this fund, and not both. We will accept more than one expression of interest from statutory bodies and other public bodies that run or maintain cultural services, but they must be for separate projects in different locations. Also note that museums or libraries are not eligible to apply to Creative Foundations Fund. They should instead apply to LIF or MEND if they are eligible. And for a full list of organisations who cannot apply to this fund, please refer to the full guidance. Next slide, please. So to apply for the Creative Foundations Fund, your project must be eligible for the fund. Your project must not start before the 1st of April 2026, and it must end no later than the 31st of March 2029. You must demonstrate freehold or leasehold ownership of the land and buildings. I'll explain this further in the next slide. You must also meet our minimum requirements for partnership funding. So for grants between £100,000 and £1 million, 5% of the total project costs must come from other sources. For grants over £1 million and up to £5 million, 10% of the total project costs must come from other sources. And for grants over £5 million, 15% of the total project costs must come from other sources. You must provide plans for architectural and engineering elements that are developed up to and including REBA Work Stage 3 as a minimum with a relevant cost plan. If you're not following the REBA work stages, plans should be developed up to including the equivalent of REBA Work Stage 3. These plans will be a mandatory attachment in the full application, and we will go on to more detail in this later on in the presentation. You and your board should read the terms and conditions of the grant and understand that our land and legal requirements if you are planning to apply for a building project. Next slide, please. If you are offered a grant for a building project, you will need to demonstrate that you own the land and/or buildings on a freehold or leasehold basis. We have specific requirements related to leasehold land and buildings, and you will need to tell us about your lease and freehold status at the point of full application. Our requirements include that the lease must be able to be registered at Land Registry and assignable to another tenant. The lease must not contain a break clause that allows the lease to be brought to an end or permits the landlord to terminate the lease if the leaseholder becomes insolvent. The lease must allow the land or buildings to be used for cultural purposes. And finally, the duration of the lease will depend on the amount you apply for. For example, 2 lease lengths apply in Strand 1 for a grant from 100,000 to 500,000. The lease must be at least 10 years in length. And for a grant between 500,000 and £1 million, the lease must be at least 15 years in length. 2 lease lengths also apply to Strand 2. The lease needs to be at least 20 years in length if applying for a grant between £1 and £5 million, and at least 30 years in length for grants above £5 million. Further details are set out in the additional eligibility for building projects section in the guidance for applicants. Next slide, please. Security. So public funding regulations require us to consider taking security in relation to grants for building projects. This means if we award you a grant of £500,000 or more, we will require you to make a legal commitment to us, linking specific obligations in the grant terms and conditions to the assets we are funding to ensure our funding is used for the intended purposes. These legal commitments must be in place prior to the release of any grant funding. Further details are set out in the security requirements section of the guidance for applicants and in our standard terms and conditions for capital grants, which are on our website. Next slide, please. It is an eligibility requirement that projects complete REBA Work Stage 3 if following the REBA Work Stages by the full application submission. If you are not following the REBA Work Stages, your full application should include a written specification and/or drawings described in sufficient detail to meet the requirements within the guidance. The REBA Plan of Work 2020 is a procedural guide for architects and construction professionals working on building projects. There are 8 stages in this plan, and you can find a detailed breakdown on the REBA website. So what is Work Stage 3 and why do we require it? Stage 3 level design allows us to not only visualize the work to be carried out, but it shows us that the project is viable. And it gives the cost consultants, such as a quantity surveyor, a level of detail that allows them to more accurately estimate the cost of the project and produce an accurate cost plan. A cost plan is a document that outlines how much everything will cost, covering things like materials, site management, and on-site overheads for construction. They'll also include assumptions, exclusions, potential risks, and their costs, and information on who prepared it. It is imperative that the cost plan is based on sufficiently detailed drawings and specifications, as this will provide the most up-to-date and accurate reflection of the expected costs. If you're working with an architect or a cost consultant, such as a quantity surveyor, they will prepare these documents. By reaching REBA Stage 3, you will have a good grasp on most aspects of your project. Therefore, your project will become more likely to run on time, on budget, and to achieve its intended outcomes. It also gives us at the Arts Council the confidence that our grant will be used for its intended purpose. Next slide, please. The application process will begin with an expression of interest stage, which all applicants must complete before being able to submit a full application. Expressions of interest are made using Grantium, the Arts Council's grant management system. First, you must create a user account and applicant profile on Grantium. You cannot start your expression of interest until your applicant profile has been validated, which will take up to 10 working days. The eligibility questionnaire will confirm whether your proposal appears to be eligible for this fund. If your proposal appears eligible, you will be asked to complete the expression of interest on Grantium. It will give you the opportunity to describe your outline proposal as part of your expression of interest, and you should provide details of your proposed project and identify how your project contributes to the aims and outcomes of CFF. You should provide details of the preparatory work you've already undertaken, including the REBA design stage you have reached, if applicable. You should explain why the proposed project is business critical and must be done in the next 3 years. Confirm the sources of partnership funding, i.e. how much is already confirmed and how much is expected, and you should provide the timescale of your project. Projects that are considered to have strong potential to deliver against the aims and outcomes of the fund will be invited to submit a full application. And we really encourage you to read the Arts Council's strategy, Let's Create, and the details of our investment principles, which are available on our website. Those will really help to inform your application. Next slide, please. The full application portal will open on Grantium on the 26th of August 2025. The deadline for submitting is 12 noon on the 31st of October 2025. Please note that if you're invited to submit a full application, this is not a guarantee that the application will go on to be successful. You should refer to the applicant guidance on our website for a detailed breakdown of the application form. Next slide, please. Here's a reminder of where you can find further information and support. The links on screen can be found in this slide deck, which we've also published on our website. You can visit the CFF webpage to read applicant guidance and the relevant How to Apply Strand guide in full, as well as the large print and audio versions. We also have a frequently asked questions section, which we will update regularly. We encourage you to read our strategy, Let's Create, and details of the investment principles on our website. And our website also has some useful capital resources to help you prepare and manage your project, including case studies and best practice guides. If you have any questions or if you require access support with your application, you can contact the customer services team via phone or web chat, or you can email them at enquiries@artscouncil.org.uk. Thanks so much for listening. We really look forward to hearing from you.